Hey, welcome to Pat's Soundbytes IGTV. Keeping new music alive is what I do on the radio and now on video. Conducting live chats with the artists and learning the stories behind their latest release and also playing their new video. Special thanks to my good friend Jody Best of Best Bet Promotions for coordinating and scheduling today's artist. Having over 20 plus years in the music industry, if you're looking for a highly successful promotion and marketing professional who's extremely motivated, look no further than Jody Best. For more information, contact Jody via email at bestbedpromo@yahoo.com. Special thanks today to my sponsor, Go-Go Tuners, for all guitar players looking for a focus on ease of use, readability, durability, and accuracy. Look no further. The Go-Go Tuner is the choice of many touring professionals and a favorite of casual players. Go-Go's signature green you're in and red you're out screen makes tuning quick and easy. For more information, go to the website at gogotuners.com. Special thanks to WBXO Classic Rock Radio Redefined, allowing me to keep new music alive on the radio airways on the Pat Show every Sunday from 5 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. Only on WBXO Classic Rock Redefined. And a big thank you to Mr. Evan Balzer for allowing me to use his amazing instrumental that you're hearing right now. It's called Trails. To find out more incredible music by Evan, go to his website at evanbalzer.com. And my special guest today, well, he's a singer, songwriter, musician, and an actor to that list, Mr. Andre Comeau. And yes, that is the Andre Comeau that was in MTV's Real World Season Number 1. Andre in April released a latest single called Clean Break, which is available on all digital outlets. I'm going to talk to Andre about his career, his love for music, his time in Real World Season 1, and the Homecoming, which just came out. We're going to play the video for Clean Break and a whole lot more right here on Pat Soundbytes IGT. Hey, welcome to Pat's Soundbytes IGTV. Keeping new music alive is what I do on the radio and now on video. Conducting live chats with the artists and learning the stories behind their latest release and also playing their new video. Special thanks to my good friend Jody Best of Best Bet Promotions for coordinating and scheduling today's artist. Having over 20 plus years in the music industry, if you're looking for a highly successful promotion and marketing professional who's extremely motivated, look no further than Jody Best. For more information, contact Jody via email at bestbedpromo@yahoo.com. Special thanks today to my sponsor, Go-Go Tuners, for all guitar players looking for a focus on ease of use, readability, durability, and accuracy. Look no further. The Go-Go Tuner is the choice of many touring professionals and a favorite of casual players. Go-Go's signature green you're in and red you're out screen makes tuning quick and easy. For more information, go to the website at gogotuners.com. Special thanks to WBXO Classic Rock Radio Redefined, allowing me to keep new music alive on the radio airways on the Pat Show every Sunday from 5 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. Only on WBXO Classic Rock Redefined. And a big thank you to Mr. Evan Balzer for allowing me to use his amazing instrumental that you're hearing right now. It's called Trails. To find out more incredible music by Evan, go to his website at evanbalzer.com. And my special guest today, well, he's a singer, songwriter, musician, and ad actor to that list, Mr. Andre Comeau. And yes, that is the Andre Comeau that was in MTV's Real World season number 1. Andre in April released a latest single called Clean Break, which is available on all digital outlets. I'm going to talk to Andre about his career, his love for music, his time in Real World Season 1, and the Homecoming, which just came out. We're going to play the video for Clean Break and a whole lot more right here on Pat Soundbytes IGTV. Hey, live on Pat Soundbytes IGTV, keeping your music alive on the radio and on video. And I got another great new track getting ready to put on our rotation. We're going to play the video. We got a cool guy here, singer, songwriter, musician, maybe even an actor to it. You might know him from, well, if you go back to probably 1992, when this show called MTV was out, this handsome young guy was on a show called The Real World, and it was season number 1. I'm talking Andre Comeau. How are you, Andre?
Real good, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, super cool to have a guy from MTV Real World. Oh, my God. Before we even get into all of that, Andre, thanks for your time. You're in L.A., I take it, or are you over this way?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Cool.
Been here for a while now.
Oh, man. Well, good for you. You look great. The track is called Clean Break. We're going to play the video. Check it out. Buy it. It's on all the digital outlets. You're going to love it. It's really cool track. I believe it came out Friday, April 9th. I'm a little just backed up, but it's all good because there's a lot of great new music out there. As you know, I'm the new music guy. Anyway, Andre, before we get into all this great stuff, I like to start from the beginning. How did you find your love into music? Family? Obviously, you're too young for the Beatles in 1964 watching the Ed Sullivan Show. But talk to me how you said, this might be a career for me.
Well, I grew up in a very musical family. My mother's family, her 7 brothers and sisters, had a family band, and they were on Capitol Records.
Wow.
The Beatles' own label, and we're on all of those same variety shows, the Ed Sullivan Show, Mike Douglas, David Frost.
What was the name?
They were called the Primo family, and that's her maiden name, Primo. Italian family out of Detroit, Michigan. And I mean, I grew up on the road with this great musical family, a wonderful environment, and you know, I mean, musical is literally, you know, my very first memories are of being on tour. You know, they would tour with the likes of, you know, I mean, it wasn't exactly a hip rock and roll thing. It was more like they would tour with the likes of Robert Goulet and Doris Day and artists like that. Much more, you know, vocal jazz almost, but you know, they would do arrangements of Beatles songs. You know, they had like various pop arrangements that, you know, would be in their set. But you know, it wasn't even a matter of you know, when I was growing up, it was not a matter of do you want to play an instrument. It was what instrument do you want to play? And
you're not getting a Tonka truck. You're getting a guitar or a drumstick.
and lessons. It was about activities and lessons. And I started on piano when I was 6 years old. Then went to drums at about 9, and then went to guitar at 13, and I've been playing guitar ever since.
Cool. And then obviously you know, in school continued. Did you play in school, the band?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. You know, bands were everything. You know, because primarily, even though I had, you know, a lot of musical training, I've been a singer my whole life. And, you know, you had mentioned the Beatles. Well, my first icon, my first, you know, star, I was an Elvis fan as a kid. Okay. Loved Elvis Presley, worshipped him. was crushed when he died.
Oh, you and everybody else.
Yeah, no, I was crushed. I was 7 years old and just, cried for 3 days. And so, uh, I've always been, singing in bands and actually, my high school band was pretty much Reigndance, which was the band that was featured in on The Real World. That same core group of people, Dean Fertitta, Bob Nick, and myself. We met with two brothers, Pete and Dean Ballard, in Detroit, and formed Reigndance out of that. But Reigndance was there was the same band that played the high school talent shows and all of those same kinds of things. I've been playing in bands with Dean Fertitta since I was in grade school.
How cool is that? And then talk about Detroit, man, the influences that come out. I mean, you talk about Alice Cooper, Bob Seger, Kid Rock, Smokey Robinson. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ted Nugent. I mean, it just goes on and on. So what a great diversity that you had musically growing up, as you mentioned. I mean, my mother, I probably got the album when my parents passed away. I got all the albums, Robert Goulet and all like, big bands and just leading on to everything. What did so obviously, you have seen how the whole music industry has evolved compared to growing up and, mom and dad in the band touring all over the place. And now, now we're into the digital world, Spotify and Zooms and what? I'm like, what happened here? But you got to deal with it firsthand, huh?
I did. Well, yeah, I mean, the industry used to be much more supportive of bands, and, there was that sort of infrastructure that existed. And honestly, when Reigndance, back in about the mid '90s, we signed our first publishing deal with Warner Chappell. It really, in it, I was sort of introduced to IP, intellectual property, and music publishing. And, I realized the importance of it. And now I have a music publishing career. It's what I do in the daytime is I work for, I do film and TV for a music publishing company.
Wow.
Cool. So, I mean, it's very, and it's really the only stable area of the music business left. I mean,
right.
Music sales are they're non-existent. And record labels are very much a thing of the past. It's really just about the intellectual property, the copyright, and trying to monetize those copyrights. I mean, that's what's left.
And how sad is that? And you mentioned film and music. I know so many artists that I've been interviewing that are really pushing that way, hitting, producers. Hey, you need a track that sounds like this. Here, I got something. You might not get the A track that you want, but, and I know people making money out of it. So, yeah.
That's what I do. I mean, that's what I do 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. My catalog has music from all over the world, over 150 countries and over 100 languages.
Wow.
We represent music from every corner of the world. And that international music is so important to film and TV. It really does set the scene and give that sort of legitimacy and that the thing that really makes the overall scene for film and TV. It's very important.
And it's crazy. More and more bands are selling their catalogs to publishing companies or labels or whoever. And I reached out to an artist, a good friend of mine, going, you just sold everything for $25 million. I know you weren't on the road for a year. Is this a good thing? And he said, yes. Not only is it a good thing, he goes, remember, as our band, we're all songwriters on all the hits, so we're always going to get the royalties. But it's crazy that you watch a commercial and you hear a song and it's like, why are they playing this song for, that product? But I remember, I think I want to say the first one was maybe Aerosmith and Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks, and everybody just boom, boom, boom. It's like a common trend anymore. I'm like,
Bob Dylan
wow.
sold his catalog for $300 million.
Wow.
I mean, that is, that's the idea. I mean, and you got to, let's face it, because as we just discussed, the record business is no longer the cash cow that it once was.
No.
They really have to, get in there and sell while you can. I mean, it's so funny that, we grew up in an era where, that would be considered selling out in many instances. And there are artists that have fought against having their music in film and TV advertising specifically.
Crazy.
I mean, what brings what pops in my mind is Tom Waits fighting Frito-Lay for hundreds of millions of dollars because they used a sound-alike because they couldn't get Tom Waits's actual music, and he won his lawsuit and has never allowed his music to be used in that context. But nowadays, let's face it, I mean, there's just so few avenues to get your music out to a mass audience. And it's really important especially for an up and coming artist to get their song on a video game or a movie or TV show that can, really put it out there in a way that an independent artist just couldn't be able to reach that far. And so it's a useful tool nowadays. And I have no qualms about having your music put out there, even associated with a product. You got to make your money.
Right. And I mean, how many millions of streams, and the artists get like 3 pennies. I'm like, this is ridiculous. It's crazy. Wow. Well, that's interesting. And but before I keep my mind's telling me about the Primos. Any big hits from mom and dad in the band that we can recall?
No, they never had any big hits. They had the album on Capitol. They had some singles, and it's funny. I believe it was the Wrecking Crew that played on the album. These huge names, people that went on to.
Oh my God, Glenn Campbell and
that's
Carol,
right. Glenn Campbell played on the record.
Carol
and
Kay on bass.
That's
what
right.
a great documentary.
These amazing artists that played on their album, and it's no, but no hits to speak of.
Well, still, they gave it their best. They out there, they loved doing what they did. It wasn't about the money. Who would ever think? You talk about labels. I would say to artists, man, you signed with Capitol back in 1975. Had to be the greatest thing. And when artists finally got into my small brain cell and said, you know what a label really was back then? And I go, I don't know. I thought it was a great thing. It's really a bank that loaned you money to go tour, to pay for studio time, to get on a bus. And if you didn't have that #1 hit after you got done doing 300 shows, you were part of the flock, and somebody else rose to the top. And before you know it, and you didn't make any money because you were stupid enough, drunk, drugged, whatever, signing a contract that you didn't even know what you were signing. And I'm like, I'm not a musician and I'm a fan, going, oh shit, excuse my French. I'm like, oh, whoa. So I've learned a lot over the years about, and now I get it. I see it even more. And that's why I do what I do. I have the passion to do what I do because I know I'm making a little bit of a difference. That if I'm playing it here in New York, there could be somebody in Alaska or wherever that falls in love with Andre Comeau and Clean Break. And you know what? If it works, it works. And that's all we can do. But that's insane. That's pretty cool. Have you had, before we get into the whole real world thing, have you had luck with your own music in movies and films? And
I have, actually. Sure. I've had some significant placements, some one of my tracks was used on a car commercial a few years back, and some various.
You go, hey, wait, that's me. Listen, play it again.
Yeah, it's exciting. Definitely exciting.
I got to meet Dave Bickler, and Dave was with Survivor, the voice of Eye of the Tiger.
Oh, great.
Back in 1982. Who would ever think, Sylvester Stallone says, he really wanted Queen. And he made a phone call and got together with Jim Peterick out of Chicago, great songwriter, and they came up with Eye of the Tiger. They got a chance to watch the video, and all he kept seeing was, the punching, and he came up with this dent, and, being on a movie, a soundtrack of that magnitude, and Survivor Eye of the Tiger 1982 #1 hit that we still hear today.
Sure.
And, Dave ended up going to Bud Light commercials, The Real Men of Genius, all those commercials. Hey, Mr. Taco, right? Taco Bell, whatever you are. And he was the voice behind that. He actually went on tour with Bud Light, going to different stadiums. But
hilarious.
It's pretty cool. Then, 1992, you get into Real World Season 1, MTV. I mean, you're what, 20, 22?
That's right. 20. I just turned 21.
Did you audition? What were you thinking? Hey, TV, I'm in a band, exposure, maybe love. Who knows?
Exactly. So I'll tell you what happened was, my band had moved from Detroit to the New York area. We had a house in New Jersey. My sister worked for EMI Records in Manhattan.
Wow.
Was living in Manhattan, and the casting director was going around to where young people worked, record labels, magazines, those kinds of places. And one of her friends recommended me to the casting director, gave the casting director a copy of my album and some pictures and things like that. And, lo and behold, they called and asked me if I would like to come down and meet them to participate in a documentary style television show. I mean,
that's
remember
what they called it, a documentary.
Well, of course, this was prior to reality TV. This
right. First one, really.
Real World was the first modern day reality TV show. So
yes,
it was not a thing before we did it. So that's exactly what they called it, a documentary style television show that would feature your life, your real life, and your love life and your music life and all of these aspects of your life. So I was like 20, 21 years old. Course,
I'm all in, yeah.
Of course I will do it.
Show me pictures of the girls. Yeah, I'm all in.
So yeah, I mean, jumped at the chance. We shot the show in February of '92, and we shot for 13 weeks, and we did not see any of the footage until the very last week that we lived there. They showed us the first episode. And at that moment, I was, both excited and terrified because it wasn't exactly as I had imagined it. It was it was filmed like a documentary, but it was edited more like a soap opera. And so it, although they didn't really fabricate any of the storylines, no blatant untruths were told. It was edited in a way that may or may not have been 100% accurate. And so that was difficult to grapple with at the time, being portrayed differently than you had imagined it, or had, the way that you saw it happen and the way that the rest of the world is seeing it, may not be exactly the same. So it was a difficult thing to deal with. And I know that the band also had a very difficult time with being portrayed in that same light. I mean, it wasn't always the best vehicle for music. And at the time, 1992, the top of the world was Nirvana, and Nirvana was anti-establishment, anti-corporate culture. So it wasn't a real cool thing to be so closely associated with with an MTV show. But we made the most of it, and we, toured incessantly, recorded 3 records, and had our publishing deal, and we made the most of it. And we my dog's growling at me, and we broke up in '97, at which point I moved to Los Angeles, and started my career in music publishing.
Good for you. Well, and then
And music
obviously
supervision, that whole world.
Paramount Plus did the old homecoming back to New York, and came out on March the 4th, and you got to reunite with your 6 other friends, I guess, that you lived together, and cameras on. Did the producers ever say, "Hey, Julie and you need to fight," or
Oh,
get an
no,
argument?
no.
It was just
never,
let
never.
it go. Whatever it was, right?
Yeah, well, I think that I can't speak to the subsequent seasons of my show. It's because we were the first cast. We were, I think, we were treated a little differently in a good way, and we were never asked to participate in anything that didn't come from us organically. And so when we came back for the reunion, of course, they knew that we would be, completely against any sort of meddling.
That's for sure.
Or any kind of, manipulation or anything like that. I mean, even a whiff of manipulation like that would just, ruffle feathers. So they knew better than to do any of that. So I mean, it's what you see is what happened. We shot again. This time we shot at the beginning of 2021 in January, at the height of COVID.
And in New York, right?
New York.
Did you know you were going back to New York?
We knew we were going. I flew into JFK, and quarantined in Manhattan at a hotel for 2 weeks beforehand, tested for COVID every day, sometimes twice a day. But we didn't know that we were actually going to be living in the loft, that same original loft.
Wow.
Until they dropped us off there, with the cameras rolling, and said, here we are, everyone's inside, go on in. And that was great, sort of seeing the same building that we lived in so many years ago. And it added to the nostalgia of it, and definitely brought, things had changed, but not everything,
Was it good to see everybody? I mean,
Oh,
obviously.
it was great. It was great seeing everybody. We get along very well for the most part. Not everyone, but the vast majority of us, we're very close, and we've stayed close. We have a running text thread that we keep each other informed of our comings and goings. Any significant life achievements,
Good.
we'll be sure to share with each other. And being that I live in LA, which is very much a destination city, everyone sooner or later comes to Los Angeles, and I always make it a point to see them when they're in town. I travel to New York rather often, and I make it a point to reach out to Kevin and Heather, who they live in the New York area. So, I mean, we've definitely kept in touch over the years, and yes, so it was great.
It's a small part of a family that you, like another band or a baseball team or
Correct.
high school group, whatever you want to look at it. It's a reunion, and you keep in touch. And I did see a couple of them have released records. I wasn't familiar with everybody on this show, and I really didn't pay much attention to it. I know I watched it like everybody else because it's the first one, and we're like, what is all this about? Now we got the Osbournes, and now there's so much stuff out there. It's crazy. But I think
that first cast, they really did. They got a bunch of artistic people, and so there were a few musicians, artists, dancer. And so, they were all very creative people, author, writers. So yeah, there was a creative bunch, and we went through something very unique and shared a very unique experience. So we have that bond, and we have remained close.
Yeah, you always have the bond, and you were always the first. And MTV was so big back in '81 when it first started, and it was the TV show that everybody watched. They never knew they were breaking ground into so much things at the time. So good for you. Two more questions about it. Any regrets?
No regrets. I mean, I would say the only regret I have about the original season is that maybe I was a little too reluctant to give my opinion, or reticent to, sort of share things about myself. Maybe a little too cool for school at times, and not as, nowadays I would insist that I just jump right in the middle of it and get in the mix.
Yeah, but that comes with maturity. I mean, again, you're 21, right. 20-year-old guy.
21 years old,
you're just ready to kick the door down, and you're young and ready to bark and bite and whatever. Now, 20 years later, you're going, ooh, I ain't saying that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. What advice would you give to someone if they said, I want to be on that next reality show, Andre?
Well, yeah, I mean,
we watch The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, all this. I don't, but there's all this stuff going on. What advice would you give
about today's reality TV shows? Yeah, it's a tough one. As far as advice, I would say, the best thing to do is just to be open and honest with yourself, and to speak from your heart, and just to, not hold back.
Be yourself, right? Just be yourself.
Right.
Not everybody loves us. Not everybody agrees with us, but we are who we are. And that's what makes us who we are. So, all right, now we got to jump into this great music thing. Clean break. Boy, we all need a clean break. That's so relevant today, Andre. And I know you've had, you mentioned Riverdance, and you haven't mentioned River Rouge, right? Was more of a folk.
I mentioned Reigndance, my first band. The band that I formed in the early 2000s was a folk band, because I kind of walked away from rock music for a time, and started more of an acoustic-based folk band called River Rouge, which was, very much influenced by, certainly starting with Bob Dylan, who is my hero, from a songwriting perspective, but definitely more along the lines of, Americana, country roots, old blues based stuff, very much a throwback to that earlier sound, and it was all acoustic. We had I played acoustic guitar, lots of vocal harmonies, mandolin, banjo. And we didn't have a drummer for a long time, so it was almost a sort of a folky, bluegrassy kind of band, and we released many records. But right around 2015, I wrote a couple of songs that were undeniably sort of rock songs that I just couldn't, no matter how hard I tried, I really couldn't make them fit the folk band. So I put together a rock band to flesh them out so that I could record them, and we recorded them, and they were great. And
I found this EP, Wrong Within, that you signed with Dave and Tom from EMP. And that's more obviously heavy. That's more metal rock, right? Compared from the Bob Dylan thing days.
That's right. Those songs appeared on that EP. And one thing led to another, where those two songs became many more songs, and we were like, let's play a show. This feels really good, and got such a great crowd reaction. So that became the dominant musical endeavor, and I put River Rouge on indefinite hiatus, and I it was a real it was an organic and sort of natural progression getting back into the rock music. It's something that I loved. I grew up on a steady diet of rock from Detroit,
Elvis.
Michigan.
I mean, you started with Elvis. I mean, come on.
Rock and roll, baby.
Right. So,
And so yeah, I mean, it was it really felt good to get back into. I hadn't cracked open the case of my Les Paul for years.
ooh,
And so really, turning it up to 10 and letting that, playing rock music, I'm using a different range in my voice, sort of setting aside that more Dylan-esque sort of half talk vocal delivery. Now I'm using my high range of my voice again, and that is very exciting. And quite honestly, I can still bring it vocally the way that I could in my younger years. So it was just great to be using that instrument again, and so it just felt great, and the audience loved it, and so it just was a natural thing to just have that become the dominant musical direction.
well, good for you. And Clean Break, you do bring it, and it's great. And I ask you, who else is the musicians in the video? But what did I just wanted to ask you? Something slipped my mind. Vocals, you got incredible vocals. Not just something I just wanted to ask you. It just slipped my mind. Well, anyway, Clean Break is a great track. Oh, songwriting. Is songwriting therapeutic for you? You mentioned you were looking for something, some way of getting these songs out, and you used it. You look towards music. Obviously, you grew up with it. Was it therapeutic to get them out of your head, put lyrics on them, and musically get them out?
Yeah, I mean, I've always, I've always written songs, and it's important to me. I'll always write them. I would say that no matter what, I'll continue to write, because it's what I enjoy doing, and as I've said in interviews for the Real World and other things, I do this for me. It's selfish. I do it because I enjoy it. And that's
it's not selfish. It's all you.
Right.
Life is too short, brother.
That's
we got to
right.
do it. We got to do it now. And you got to put a smile on your face. And you've been smiling since we hit the record button. So it's all good. What's the story behind the track Clean Break? What are we breaking away from? I'm a lyric guy. I want to close my eyes. I want to try to interpret what you're thinking. But that's what's great about music, because everybody may have a different interpretation of a song. So
that's right. Everyone does have a different interpretation, and I really like to keep it that way. I don't really like to spell out what I mean in my lyrics always, but I will clarify some things. The chorus is, "From my good senses, I've made a clean break." So
good.
So I mean, that's the chorus of the song. But I do like to let people make their own connection to
absolutely,
rather than spell it out in so many words what I mean.
And that's why we love music. I can be saying, this is what it means. Somebody goes, I think it's that. But you know what? It's whatever you want to make it. As long as you love it and you sing it back to the artist, there's no better feeling. That's cool. Right. Who are the other gentlemen in your band there, Andre?
Well, thanks for asking. I'd like to start by saying, the song is produced by my drummer, who is a great music producer as well. He's a great drummer, a guy named Darren Alpant. And we recorded in his studio. He produced the EP that we recorded in 2020. He recorded this new album that's coming out on September 9th.
Ooh, nice.
And that's the song Clean Break is the title track for the new record, also called Clean Break. Darren produced it with me. And we have a great bass player, a guy named Gary Wicks. And Gary is, this is his first record with us. And he's just a phenomenal musician. And we're using unlike the last record, which was just a 3-piece, this new one, we've also incorporated a second guitar player, a guy named Steve Dawson, all of whom are East Coast, expats. Steve is from Manhattan, born and raised in Manhattan. Darren is from Long Island, New York, and Gary is from Boston. So, we all live out here in Los Angeles now, but we have this great East Coast connection. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, but I spent most of my 20s in New York.
New York, right?
Broke out of New York, so I've definitely got that connection to New York as well. And we're very much looking forward to playing some shows in New York and on the East Coast.
Yeah, come on down, brother. We got to get you to roll the dice. I like the idea that it's an album. I mean, I get a lot now digitally from the publicist or management or the label, but boy, do I miss going to a record store and tearing it open and reading the liner notes and who produced it and lyrics. And I mean, you can't. I mean, my kids think I'm a nutcase when I pull out an 8-track and a cassette. Like what is that? But
that's the experience. That was half the experience, is really scouring the liner notes, reading the lyrics, looking at the big artwork, that big,
the album cover, the pictures.
The big, beautiful representation of the artwork, and then the additional artwork, the back of the album, the inner sleeve. Remember the
my
sleeve that
goodness,
the vinyl was kept in, all that great information. Sadly, that's kind of lost in the presentation of the album with the CD and now digital downloads and stuff like that. We're going to try to make that material available online with the artwork and all that, because honestly, it's the physical copies. They're as much as I would love to make those physical copies. It's a matter of like, okay, I can spend X amount of dollars, putting all of all of our resources and make 2,000, copies of the vinyl, which they would sell, but it's literal. Where are you going to sell them? And it's that presents a whole other set of issues that you really got to be on top of. So but I love the artwork, and I love all of the ephemera that
the whole
record album
trying to represent here behind me with a little picture of Clean Break, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's all about live shows, and you ask any artist, it's all about getting the merch out and going to a live show, and it's hit or miss. Do I spend the money and get? Now we got 1080 gram, and it comes in yellow and blue, and I mean, but you got to see if it's all worth it. And most artists, I think, are going to getting a couple CDs and seeing how that goes, and watching the Spotify numbers and seeing if people are interested. It's crazy. I will use our audio here today on my podcast, and I have a worldwide podcast, and it just the analytics alone is like France is my #1 country, and I'd never, interviewed an artist from France, but
I love that.
It's crazy. I mean, in today's social media world, I mean, I'm up at 98,000 downloads, and it's not even been 2 years. So
that's
for
great.
me, people are going to listen to our little podcast, our little audio here, Andre, and wherever it takes us, and it's all good. Who would you want to open for? We get on tour. Who's a perfect fit for your music, Andre?
Well, I mean, I would love
you need to fit, right? You can't.
Yeah, well, sure. I would love to, I'd love to play in front of bands like Rival Sons. That's a great new rock band. The Struts, that's another great new rock band.
Love the
You know,
Struts.
yeah, I mean, I'm, but I would also love to play for more established, in front of a more established rock band as well. Anyone really, that, because at this point I'm just trying to get my songs out to as many people as possible. Get me an opening slot on, in front of anyone really, as far as, in the rock world. There's so many great festivals and, outdoor sheds and things like that. But yeah, the new rock bands that I would like to, tour with would be, I think that Rival Sons are a real good, would be a real good fit.
Excellent band. And I got to see the Struts open for the Foo Fighters. And I'm like, oh my, I'm looking forward to seeing the Struts again in October, going down into the city in Irving Plaza. Andre, it's been a pleasure, man. I hope you enjoyed the chat as much as I have. Where can everybody find it? Clean Break on all the digital outlets, Andre, your website. I know you're on Facebook, Twitter, anywhere else that we can get our listeners to go to.
Yeah, that's right. You can find me at andrecomeaumusic.com, Andre Comeau Music at Facebook, on Spotify, Andre Comeau, and everywhere else. Also, look up River Rouge. That we released 4 records in the 2000s. Reigndance released 3 records in the 90s. So there's a lot of music out there that I've been making, and I'm going to keep doing it. So
you're smiling, and I want you to keep doing it. And I can't wait for September 9th for the album release. And I would want everybody to buy that, because the thing is, as I tell everybody, Andre can autograph the album, but he can't autograph a Spotify digital thing. So buy the album. Andre, a pleasure. We're going to rock a little Clean Break on our station, and as much as I can do. And I hope I have you back on when the album is just about going out, or any tour updates. My door is always open for you, my friend.
Thanks, Pat. The pleasure was mine.
This is The Real World right here with Andre Comeau, and great new music, keeping it alive. Time to play a little Clean Break right here on Pat Soundbytes IGTV. Go and buy it now.
Screaming, apprehensions, lucid dreaming, over the mountain under mystic spells, meditating on the stars. Hear me, promise a warning, fear thee. The darkness coming, mesmerized under restless skies. We've gone too far, so get back with you as my witness. I'll take my revenge today. Don't ever make the restless skies.